So last Christmas, I absolutely fell in love with these punch needle stockings that my friend Carly made for her family. And fast forward to January, Christmas is over, decorations are put away. All I could think about was those stockings. I kept telling my husband, oh my God, they were so cute. And he's like, why are you still talking about stockings? And so I realized I had to make them for my family too. So at this point, I had never done punch needle before. I didn't have a punch needle. I knew nothing about it. And I had 7 stockings to make. And I figured that if I got started in January, that hopefully I would be finished by Christmas 2022. And 10 months later I am, and this is the story. I want to give a huge shout out to Amy Oxford of the Oxford Company, because everything I learned about punch needle, I learned from her YouTube videos. So if you haven't heard of her and you're interested in doing a punch needle anything, you really have to check out her YouTube channel. I'm going to share how you can create your own punch needle stockings in 3 videos. This video is the first, and I'm going to cover all the supplies that you need, how you can make your own pattern, and basically how you get yourself set up to get ready to punch. In video 2, I'm going to cover how you actually punch the front of the stocking. And in video 3, I'm going to show you how to actually construct your stocking, taking it off the punch board and turning it into a real stocking, just like this one. Punched and finished and ready for Santa. These guys are definitely a labor of love, and it's already November, so we have to get started. All right, so let's go over the supplies that we are gonna need for our punch needle stockings. So first off, you're gonna need a punch needle. This one is the best. It's from the Oxford Company, and it is a number 10 size regular. Then we have some fabric shears, some small little shears that you keep with you while you're punching. We're also gonna need embroidery needles, and then yarn needles. If you've never seen these they have a really big eye, so you can thread your yarn through it, and they're not sharp. So you're gonna need one of those. And then we're gonna need monk's cloth. So monk's cloth is what you will be punching through. So you can either do monk's cloth and put it on a gripper strip frame like I'm gonna do, or you can use a pre-made frame. This is a cheap wooden frame that has the monk's cloth strap stretched onto it. This is how I started, and then when I figured out I wanted to do lots and lots of more punch projects, I upgraded to the gripper strip frame. So I'm going to show you how you can use both of these. Then of course we have our beautiful yarns in all of our little wound cakes. If when you bought your yarn it comes in a big hank, you're gonna have to spin it into a cake that has a center pull that you can work with. So I got this little Knit Picks yarn winder, and it turns out that my dad was the best at helping, so he got enlisted probably more than he wanted to help me wind all of my yarn into cakes. This is the question that I'm gonna get asked the most. How much yarn do I need for each stocking? And that is bit of a hard thing to answer. So, I mean, it depends on so many things, right? The weight of your yarn, the size of your stocking, how thick you punch. I mean, there's so much. But what I can tell you is that for my stockings they're about 17 inches. For my stockings, overall, I used about 3 hanks per stocking, which I know sounds like a lot. And it's kind of hard because you can't just buy 3 hanks of red, right? Because you need these other colors. After the yarn, you will need something to construct your stocking with. So I used flannel, and I used a color for the backing of the stocking to match whatever was punched of the overall stocking. So for mine, it's gonna be this dark blue color. And then the lining for everyone's stocking was this soft gray that matched our putty yarn. Also, my friend Sarah makes these adorable sewing tags, and she had this one that said made in 2022. So these are going inside of every one of my stockings. So this is just a nice little added touch. I figured the best place for me to start this project was with a trip to my local yarn store, and to see if there was any yarn that I was gonna fall in love with and see what their advice was. And of course I fell in love with this hand-dyed, beautiful bulky weight yarn called Monostel Uruguay, and the line is Cardo. They had the most perfect colors for Christmas, and I knew that this yarn was it. However, I didn't buy enough on that first trip because I didn't know. And it turned out to be really hard to get in the long run, and I even had to dye some at the very last minute, which was awful. So I'll tell you that story later. Anyway, my advice to you is that when you're picking out your yarn, two things: you either buy more than you think you'll need so that maybe you can return it if you don't use it, or that you check with your yarn store and see if they regularly stock that type of yarn so that when you need more, it's gonna be available for you to come back and buy it. Now I'm gonna show you exactly how I created each pattern for everyone's stocking. So after I got my yarn, I took a photo of it and imported it into my Procreate so that I could make a color palette for each yarn, and then I could lay it out and see what stockings should be what color. So I had 7 stockings to make. I have 4 kids, and then my mother-in-law lives with us. So this was a big project. And so you can see that I used all of the yarns in everybody's stockings. So at first I was gonna do like woodland creatures, and I thought it was so boring. And then I realized, oh my God, I wanna do mythical creatures. So we've got Bigfoot, Yeti, unicorn, mermaid, dragon, Loch Ness, and an alien. Now, what I did first was I started with just drawing a simple outline of a stocking, something that I liked visually, and then I was going to add a letter and a little creature for each person. And so that's what I did. I just went through and started drawing everyone's little letter and creature. After I had the stocking outline, I went to dafont.com and found this beautiful font called Honey Florist. And I put all my letters in: Mama, Daddy, Ava, Hadley, Russ, Ellie, and Grammy, so I could see how each of them looked. Then I took a screenshot and added that into my Procreate here. And then I would just move the letters, and then I would just trace it right onto my stocking. And I did that with each one, and some parts were really thin, so I had to make them thicker, or I had to make them more appropriate for the stocking. But that's another great way that you can add a font, and you can keep them all very similar. So you could just browse any website and find letters that you like. So here's my stocking, but you can't punch it like this. We have to transfer it onto paper and transfer it onto our monk's cloth. So what I did was I just black outlined every shape, and I did this for every single stocking, and you can see where that is here. Oh, this one's Daddy's. Okay, here's Mama's. So I did this black outline, and now this is what we're going to trace onto our monk's cloth. You can buy my stocking outline and then each of these little creature patterns in our shop. And now we're going to print this out and get it onto our monk's cloth. Here I've got my favorite Canon printer of all times. It's my Pixma IP8720. It prints up to 13 by 19 inches, which was perfect for these stockings. So I'm printing my stocking pattern onto this matte photo paper, but I'm also going to show you how you can print just on any of your regular home printers using our patterns. So here it comes. So I've got my pattern on my 13 by 19 inch paper, but if you don't have an oversized printer at home, you can also use these patterns that we've created for you. So we've got all of the creatures from Bigfoot to Nessie, unicorn, mermaid, and everybody in between. And so what you'll do is take our stocking pattern, and then you're gonna cut it apart. So now we can tape this together. Oh, my nail polish smeared on there. And here is your overall stocking pattern. So it's almost exactly the same as mine. And then what you would do is take these, and you can cut this out and put whichever one you want on your stocking. Draw your own, do whatever you want. But this is what we have for you as a workaround if you don't have a large printer at home. Okay, so I have my gripper strip frame out here. The edges are pretty sharp, so you want to be real careful. We've got the really thick flannel covering that will protect our hands, and we're ready to get this monk's cloth stretched over here. So I'm just going to gently drape this over and start kind of pulling it taut over these gripper strips. So we want to try to make sure that the lines stay straight and that our fabric stays as straight as possible as we add it to this board. It is so easy to do this. First, we're going to turn our monk's cloth over, and I'm going to tape the pattern on the inside. And now I'm going to put my bright pad inside, and I'm going to like constantly hold it with my hand to press it up to my pattern. You can also do this by holding your monk's cloth and pattern up to a bright window. From iPad to paper to monk's cloth, now we're ready to punch. The last pattern tip that I will leave you with is to color your patterns before you punch. This is a great way to lay out your colors and make sure that you're happy before you start your project. Now, since I did this on the iPad and I wasn't gonna like keep my iPad with me while I was punching, to make it easy for myself, I used my Canon IV2 to print out a photo sticker that I peeled the backing off and it stuck to the monk's cloth so that I could keep my pattern coloring with me while I was punching. Now, if you don't have an IV2, you can always keep your colored paper pattern with you while you're punching so that you know what colors should go where. Here we are at the end of video 1, and you are now ready and prepared and excited to start punching, and you should be because it's the best part. So likes go a long way for the YouTube algorithm, and of course so do follows and shares. But what I would love even more is if you would share photos of your punch needle stocking journey with us on Instagram. I'll be resharing our favorites, and I can't wait to keep up with everyone and see everybody's progress and what yours looks like. I hope that you learned something here in this video, and I wish you all happy crafting and a happy holidays.